So what's been your first impressions of the Northern School of Art?
Well, it's a gloriously sunny day, so my first impressions, aided by that, have been fantastic. I've been given a tour of the costume design area and the archive as well, which is brilliant. The space is incredible, in the Victorian building, with the sort of moulding on the ceiling and these enormous skylights as well, that just has so much amazing light coming into the workspaces. So yeah, it's just been fantastic. There's so much going on here. It's great, really good.
It's lovely working in such a creative environment.
I can imagine, yeah. And the fact that there are so many disciplines so close by as well, that you can all really kind of work together with people studying other things to kind of, create these whole different things.
Definitely,
yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
There is a lot of crossovers. People help, especially photography. If the fashion students in costume would like something photographed, that's always an amazing opportunity for them.
Yeah.
You started your career as a head buyer and trend analyst. Do you have any advice for students wanting to break out into this sort of industry?
Well, I was a head buyer and trend analyst for a vintage clothing company, so the route into it was very, very different from if you were doing that for a high street company or a sort of big design company or fashion brand. My route into it was quite unorthodox anyway. I did an English degree initially, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I finished university. I just always really loved studying and reading and writing. And over the summer after I graduated, I kind of realised that the other thing I'd always loved was old clothes. And so I got a job in my favourite shop, which was a vintage clothing shop. And so I just worked on the shop floor initially. But at the time it was a very, very, very small company as well, like a tiny company. And I worked on the shop floor, but I would spend my lunch breaks kind of reading books about fashion history, and I was quite keen to learn the context to the product that we were selling, basically. And so it was through that I essentially became the head buyer, because the company were looking to expand. They were looking to have somebody in charge of quality control, essentially, and training the people that were picking the clothing for us into how you could date things properly, and also what things were on trend, so what things to look for in that respect as well. So it was through that I became the head buyer and trend analyst. I mean, if you wanted to do a more orthodox route into the industry, you can do sort of fashion merchandising and buying courses, things like that. I learned on the job, I guess, which was a lot of fun.
I can imagine, sort of like an apprenticeship.
Yeah, I guess so, kind of. Yeah, kind of. But I think it's useful having spent time working on the shop floor as well, because you really get to know the customer, you get to know what people are after. So it's not, you don't start just kind of being isolated from the people who are actually buying the things that you're making the decisions about. So I think that's quite important, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous, thank you. You are now a fashion historian and have a very unique style. Where does this inspiration come from, and do you have a favourite period of history?
Well, my inspiration comes from all of my work, luckily, because I just get to, spend a lot of my time researching different periods of fashion history. In terms of favourite periods, in the 20th century, I am a big fan of the 1920s, which I think is quite obvious in some of my styling. But I really like sort of mid-18th century men's silhouette with the sort of breeches and the stockings. That was something that inspired me quite a lot when I was dressing for A Stitch in Time, the TV show, and seemed to sort of relate quite strongly to some of the areas that we were covering throughout the show. So that is another one of my favourite silhouettes as well, definitely.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you. Is there any period of fashion that you would avoid, and why?
Avoid? No, I don't think so. I mean, I think some people would definitely say I maybe have quite questionable taste at times. So I'm not really afraid to try anything out. I like a lot of really bright colours. I like a lot of garish patterns. I like a lot of headgear. Yeah. So I certainly wouldn't rule anything out. I think you're limiting yourself too much. If you, I'd always give it a go, definitely, yeah.
With going back to the trends industry, would you say you're ever influenced by trends, or do you just sort of?
I guess everyone's influenced by trends to a degree because it affects what's in the shops.
Yeah.
It affects literally what is there for you to buy, which is why, you know, when some people say that the fashion industry has no impact on them, it's just not true, because it has an impact on all of us because it affects what is in the stores. But having said that, I don't anymore follow trends super closely. If something happens to be on trend that I like, it's quite good because it means you have easier access to it. But I certainly, whether something was on trend or not, wouldn't affect whether I would buy it or not, or wear it or not, definitely. There were times in the past when I was a teenager, I was very anti-mainstream fashion, and if something I liked came on trend, I would avoid it. And I'd be very annoyed that everyone was suddenly wearing these things that I liked first. But I'm not like that so much anymore. Yeah.
Thank you. And besides fashion, do you have any other obsessions?
I guess in terms of things that I don't have enough space for, which I suppose is quite a good way of thinking about obsessions, clothes, books would be the other one as well. Obviously books about fashion history. I wish I had more space and could have a whole library in my flat. That would be that's a dream for the future. So yeah, I guess books and clothes have always been sort of my biggest expenses, and also the things that I sort of, use the most space on. So that, yeah, and they're tied together in terms of my profession, so it does make sense.
Well, it's just everything, isn't it? I suppose your profession, it's not just your job, it's your life, I suppose.
Yeah,
you can tell
exactly.
in the way you dress and through your books as well.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's kind of a lifestyle profession, I guess. Yeah.
Do you have a pivotal moment when you realised that life would go down a fashion history path? You sort of answered that earlier, actually.
Yeah, I guess it was that moment. And I mean, I didn't even know that a fashion historian was a profession that you could have after I initially graduated. I think that was definitely the moment when I realised that old clothes was were the other real passion I'd always had, on top of books and learning and reading and writing stuff. So I guess that would be kind of the pivotal moment, definitely, yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Your current book, The Fashion Chronicles, Style Stories of History's Best Dressed. What was your inspiration behind it, and is there anybody you could have written more about?
I could have written more about everyone in the book. The format of the book is great because it makes it, if every person in there, you can kind of give a bite-sized overview of who this person is and why dress played an important function in their life or their work. But it's also, the bite-sized nature of it can be really frustrating. So there are 100 entries in the book, and each entry had to be about 400 or 500 words, so, not long at all. And for each one of those, I would have sort of maybe 20 to 30 pages of notes and research that I'd made that I would then need to try and cram down into 400 or 500 words. So everyone in that book, you could have written a whole book on. And some of them have had whole books written on them just on their wardrobe, like especially people like Marie Antoinette. There are a couple of books that specifically look at her through her clothes, through her wardrobe. So yeah, absolutely. Everyone in it, you could have written more. I could have written loads more. I'll have to do a volume 2.
Yes, definitely. And have just a giant encyclopedia version.
Yes, yeah.
That'd be fabulous. And where do you see your career in 10 years' time?
That's a really difficult question. I mean, it would be great if I was able to still be doing the kind of stuff that I'm doing in 10 years. I really like the variety of things that I do. I give a lot of talks, hence being here. I teach at universities. I do the bits and pieces of broadcasting, obviously, and I do the writing. So it's a really nice kind of mixture of different things. So I would just like to be doing all of it. In 10 years' time, just to know that it was kind of sustainable for the future, I guess. yeah, it's great. I feel very lucky to be able to do the variety of things that I do. So I just hope people remain interested for 10 plus years and I can carry on doing it. Yeah.
Fabulous. Is there any sort of endeavours you'd like to venture into? Or are you quite happy with?
Well, I mean, I love travelling, so I think maybe it would be great to do more research that involves travelling. I guess, so doing the same things I'm doing now, but maybe just bigger projects. So, and I guess better funded projects, which is what everyone in the arts is after, I suppose, right? More funding to do what they want to do. I've got some ideas for projects that I really want to get off the ground that involve researching maybe in China and Russia and places like that. So to be able to do that, to incorporate travel even more into what I do, that's something I'd really love to do. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Kimonos, always fantastic.
Yeah. There's just, I'm really interested in Russian history and Chinese history as well. I was in China for a bit over this summer. And there's just so much, it's just so fascinating, the differences in, historically, and how people around the world have sort of presented themselves, ideas around how you clothe the body, all of this kind of stuff. So I'd love to be able to do some more in-depth research in those places, definitely.
And I just want to ask if you've got any final advice for students who are going down any avenue that source you go into.
It's really standard, obvious advice, but just don't give up, I think. Be prepared for there to be a lot of hard work. There will be an awful lot of hard work. It's not regular hours. Whether you're working in costume design or whether you're working in academia or sort of fashion history research more broadly, or fashion design, none of these industries are industries that keep regular hours. So if you want to be able to switch off at the end of the day and just work a certain amount of hours per week, it's maybe not for you, unfortunately. But if you absolutely love it and you kind of live and breathe those kind of subjects, then just carry on and work hard and don't give up. There are no shortcuts. You just have to work really hard and believe in yourself as well. Yeah.
That's a really lovely one. I think that's what you forget so often, to actually believe in yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Believe in yourself and keep on going, basically. That's what you have to do. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.